Well, hello, and welcome back. I am back at it on the Auth project. Last time I added the ability to log out, so to delete the session cookie. And today, what we need to do is first document that because I didn't actually put that in the README yet. And then move on. This is getting to the point, again, where it needs to be more specific to the actual projects that are using this. So I'm going to go through making some issues, kind of recapping what else this needs to do, what the next steps are, and it's going to involve creating auth middleware that can be used generically, and then also having some users and just putting in some more, filling this out a little bit more. Okay, so with that out of the way, and I do have on both Twitch and YouTube, I have the comments open, so I'll try to take a look there every couple of minutes. And if at any point this is helpful for you, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you want to see more like this. So here we go. I need to get back into the project folder. And oh gosh, I got a bunch of whip commits. Ugh, that's terrible. Yeah, I guess I could kind of squash all of that. Because before this... Oh well. Let me go ahead and just do it real quick. So let's rebase the last 10 commits. Oh, there aren't... let's see. I've got stuff that still needs... yes. Okay. So that's going to come in a little later. So let me git stash that. And we'll reword this one. I don't remember exactly what that was. And this is a fix-up, and this is a fix-up, and this is a fix-up. So I think what we're going to say is that we got Google Auth working, I think is what that all commit is going to... So doing a fix-up is like doing a squash, except that you don't have to then see the list of names of commits. But I'm going to go ahead and... doing a reword and a fix-up is basically the same thing as doing a squash. Google Auth. Let's see. Oh, actually, I don't know that I want to do that. Hold on. Aborting due to empty commit message. Let's do rebase abort. Let me take a look at this. Some fixes and logout, Google Auth working. You know, I'm gonna keep them there. I'm just gonna rename them. That's what I'm gonna do. So obviously these two go together. I wish I'd given it something more than just that. All right, Google Auth working, fixes and logout. Yeah, this looks good. Okay, so what was this? This was a cookie session and token exchange. That's what that was. And then this one, we'll sign in works, I think is what that was. And then some fixes and logout. Sure, let's just call it that. Cool, now I'm going to push, force, origin, whip. And that's going to rewrite the history of the whip branch. And at this point, I think I'm gonna edit the README, and then I'm gonna say that it's safe to go ahead and merge this into main or master or whatever it is. Also, what have we got for prettier here? Print width. Oh, there's something. I don't remember what the name of the option is, but it's like prose wrap. I think I want that option in here too. Because then, is that it? No. Okay, let's search. Because I want it to not carry on single lines forever and ever and ever. Prettier prose wrap. Prose wrap. Prose wrap. Always. That's what we need to set it to. Seems like true would be equivalent to always, but no, it's not. Always. There we go. And ta-da! Okay, that looks better. And we need to put in our delete auth session. Where should that go? I think it should go probably towards the bottom. And then I don't remember exactly. Let's see, I'm just going to put down here at the bottom. Delete. And the request looks like delete. And there's nothing that we do in terms of we don't have to include the cookie, but I just want to note that the cookie will be sent there. Is there anywhere else where, yeah, let me just use the same thing. Whoops, go back up a little bit. And then we don't include a body. And then the response is going to be okay. And I think it's success true. I think that's what it ends up being, if I remember correctly. I like to have success and failure indicators. I think that's pretty important. And then so this will set an expired cookie. That's how we clear it. Cool. And let's see, was there anything else we needed to do in here? I feel like there might have been some junk we needed to clean out. Oh, this one does deserve something though. So we should do, say, skip Google ID token test skipped. And that really should go, let's see, I forget how it is. Is it like that, maybe? Let's see if shell check complains or is happy. I think that's it. This is one of those things that, for the life of me, I can't remember. It's super simple. Echo to standard error. Okay. So did I get it right? Yeah, I did. But they say to put it before because it makes it easier to read. I'm not sure if that's true. But I also had, I think shell check, yeah, shell check moves it around. But I think it still works the same. So this is what we should check. If we run the tests, oh, and I think I've still got, yeah, so I've still got the node server running in the background here with watch exec. Okay, skip. So if I were to just look at this and say, take all that, put it to dev null, yeah, that's the debug output. And then let me clear my screen, Command K to clear, run all this again, and then look to see expecting hello, expecting success, expecting cookie and ID token, expecting error. I want to check out what that's about because it looks like it gets something that's not an error. What is this one? Okay. What was I doing here? This doesn't look quite right. This looks like I was debugging something and I put this here and then I forgot to delete it. It looks like it's exactly what this is. All right, so we need to change our login bit there. Let's give these pseudo tests better names. Expecting success for logout even when not logged out. Yeah, that looks good. Even not logged in. Yep. User credentials. Okay, it looks like something got messed up here. Because they're... There we go. That looks a little bit better, maybe. Okay, that doesn't have anything good. Expecting new access token. Just putting in names here. Okay, expecting, so this is logout again. Okay. Let's just step through this. Expecting cookie, expecting error, expecting new ID token. I want to trim that message. Let's see, can I, oh dang it, I gotta run it again. Alright. Expecting new token. I should put ID token there. I'll go back and put that. Access token. It validates. Success. Expecting error. Yeah, okay. Everything here looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and first let me reset this. I'm going to add prettier. Make prettier. And then actually, whatever. add delete slash logout slash delete session plus prettier. Cool. I think that's good. So let's get back over to master. Let's rebase whip in, push that, and then get back over to whip. Okay. Now let me go ahead and make some issues here. What are things that we've got? Okay, we want MFA hints. I know about that. Okay, we've got to get auth middleware. So this is essentially, let me see if I can bring it up. I've already got this code, which I'll explain what I'm doing here. But basically, we need something that other routes can use. So we've got the /API/authn session, and all of our session stuff is being handled there. But in other places where we want to be able to handle the code, we need a way to handle the code. So I want to have that there. What else do I need? Need magic link, sign in. So this is twofold, actually. One, we don't want to require that the user have an insecure password in order to sign in, because like I say, password authentication is zero-factor authentication. And number two is that if they forgot their password, this is really, it's three things. The forgot password flow being the last. But if they get their password wrong, just send a magic link. So three things there. What else do we want to do? We need just kind of a better wrapper around this. I'm trying to think of what I need to get done next. Hold on, I'm going to look at some other notes real quick. Some requirements. Okay, we're going to use Mailgun or SendGrid and Twilio or Nexmo for email and text, respectively, for the multi-factor authentication. I don't think I'm going to add that today. Well, maybe I will. Maybe I will, actually. Let me see about this. But I think the next most important thing is just thinking through the use case of the sub-accounts versus, not versus, but we're going to get back some user info. I have to think around, in both of these cases, I have to think around how the permissions are going to work. And I think there's going to be two types of permissions. There's going to be role-based permissions, which basically means that for a given account, a user has a role over that account, and so they have a very broad set of permissions. And then the other would be access controls, which is that over any given set of resources, a user has very limited or fine-grained permissions. So if I'm an admin over an account, basically anything I want to do in the account, I should be able to do. There should be an audit log, but I should be able to do it. Oh, that's another thing. Need an audit trail. Okay. So basically, I just need to know log when user logs in, log failed login attempts, maybe. Some stuff like that. I need a place for that to go. And let's see what else we got here. I think those are the key things. So I'm just going to start banging away at this. Let me go. So we want to. What have we got? What is this? This our app.js? So this should not be our app.js. I'm going to move this over, and this is going to go from being app.js. Oh, excuse me. Okay, here's what we'll do. We'll copy this. We'll copy this app.js to auth.js, authent.js, or session.js. Let's call it session.js. And I want to put it in a lib folder. So I'm going to mkdir lib. And there we go. So now, in the session.js file, I'm going to get rid of all the top level stuff. So I don't think any of this is super necessary. Let's see. Well, maybe. I'm going to get rid of the stuff that definitely isn't necessary or shouldn't be here. So I don't think we need the Express server in here. We don't need the HTTP server in here. We don't need the static server in here. None of that. At this point, really, we should be handling just auth in. So let me get rid of this hello. Some of this stuff ought to be optional or passed in. That's what we're going to figure out. Yeah. A lot of stuff there. Definitely things like the cookie secret should be passed in. Okay. So here's what we need. Well, I'm not even going to go down that route yet. For now, I am going to keep a couple of things here that I wasn't going to keep here. But I'm going to scope these better. We're going to move this error handler out. That's fine. Don't need Morgan. Not here anyway. I think I am going to bring back the .env. We'll see. Well, no, this is good for now. But I don't want to leave process.env in here. I think that's really poor form. So I'm going to have to find a way to wrap all this, but I'm going to do that later. So I'm just going to put to do eliminate the process.env global vars. Now here at the app level, we're going to create our session middleware. We don't need our body parser. We don't need the cookie stuff. We don't need the JWT stuff. Well, we kind of do, but we don't right now. I'm going to get rid of that for simplifying things. We don't need this Google stuff. And we do need those functions, but I'm going to eliminate them for right now. What I'm trying to do is just kind of separate this out into where it functions as a middleware and where other routes are going to use a middleware for verifying the token. So we're going to have a token verifier middleware that's similar. Okay, grant token and cookie. Yeah, all this stuff needs to go. Okay, we'll keep hello. Hello can stay here. And we'll have our own API. We can move that down below the auth in layer. And we do want kind of a global error handler-ish for these things, so I'll leave those in there. We still want that server set up. All right. So let's say, and I do want to scope this, because what this is going to be is API auth in session. And I think that we could mount it there, and that would be fine. But I'm going to mount it at root for now, because if I mount it at that, then I have to go change all the other stuff. And let's just call it session middleware. And it is require./lib session.js. All right, now if everything goes well here, okay, that also needs body parser still. So let me go back to the other file. Do we have any errors in here? Nope. So I'm going to go back. All right, we've got no errors in here. So watch exec, should have restarted this a couple of times. Okay, body parser is not defined. All right, now it's working, good. So now let's rerun the test and just make sure we didn't break anything in that little minor refactor, and we did. We very, very did. Oh, is verified of undefined. Well, that seems unusual. Because to me, that looks like the body parser is still there. I'm not really clear on why that would be. Oh, it helps if you spell it correctly, turns out. You know, typing's the leading cause of typos. Maybe I should have gotten rid of everything underneath of session. Because I think, is there anything here that is not under session? Refresh, exchange, okay. So auth in then, as it were. All right, let's run those tests again. And these aren't really great tests because I'm not actually checking the result. But again, I need to move this into JavaScript at this point. So they've outlasted their usefulness. All right, I'm checking over in the comments real quick. I don't see anything as of yet. I was just kind of pausing. Oh, and also I didn't set my Pomodoro timer. Let me do that. We're gonna work on this for another 55 minutes. It'll take us to 5 p.m. Mountain Time. Okay. point, and I'm kind of at a sticky point, and that I need to think about things that I'm not clear enough in my head yet. So let me take a second. The next thing that I want to do is the middleware. That I know what to do. I know exactly what to do with that. Okay, let's go back to the middleware real quick. This is basically what it's going to end up being. We need to put this in a special place. And so let's call this lib middleware. It needs a better name eventually, but this will do for now. And in our main app, we just need some resources that emulate the way that this is really going to be used. So that, I think, is the next thing that needs to get done. And then we'll add in some users, or we'll do some stuff with users. Okay, so first of all, I think this will just be module.exports equals the function. And then this should return another function. And oh, whoops, it already is that. Oops, here we go. All right, and then we do need to bring in key fetch. That should do. So key fetch is going to verify our key with a given key. And it's actually okay to not give a key. The key can be looked up at the issuer address. Oh, that's another thing that needs to be here, or that I'd like to have here. Do I want to do that right now? Maybe. Yeah. So I don't prefer the method of giving a key as part of the environment. I prefer giving having the issuer defined in the OpenID config, or the OIDC, OpenID Connect config. Anyway, there's a special file that you give back and you tell it where the keys are stored. And we saw this with the Google stuff. So if I go back here, let me go back to this blog that we've been referencing. And OpenID configuration. There we go. So it'll say issuer and a bunch of other stuff, JWK's URI. So if you go here, that's where the public keys are for Google. And so you can define the same file, well-known OpenID configuration. Oops. That's not what I wanted to do. I was just trying to copy the URL. Copy and paste has become so hard in the modern web. Like, can I not just select this text, please? Like, why is it selecting over here when I'm clicking over here? How much closer to end can I possibly get? Now, whatever. Okay, I'll copy the whole thing then. Fine. We'll do it your way. That's my own blog. I don't know what's going on there. So I do think we ought to be able to do the bare minimum here. I'm going to go into the app.js. I'm just going to set up a route. We've got use, and this is something I also ought to put it in a middleware. Maybe this other thing ought to export it. Session middleware. Maybe it should have more than one bit attached to it. I think it should actually. So let's do lib session. In addition to exporting the app, I think it should export a second app. I'll call this OIDC config maybe, or just OIDC. I don't know. Doesn't matter what we call it. We just need to call it something for right now. And this would be another, yeah, I guess we can just color it that way. I'm going to go back up, copy this, come back down, paste it, and then join the lines together. There we are. So this app should handle a GET request to exactly this. And then it should give back I guess what should get passed into this is the domain. That should be the issuer. So we should have something like app URL, which we have not defined yet, but I'm just going to put that there as a placeholder. And then we need a place where the keys go, which is going to be JWK's URI, except we're going to use the standard place that this goes rather than, because there actually is a standard for this. I think Auth 0 is the one that created it. Google created OIDC, and lots of these different companies created different parts of the standard, and they all kind of move towards it, a little here, a little there, a little bit at a time. But what this should be is the app URL plus, and then we should have dot well-known, and I think it's just jwks.json. Let's double check on that. Well-known jwks.json. Let's see if that rings a bell. It'll probably be Auth 0. Yep, will be the first hit. Well-known jwks.json. Okay, that'll be it. And then likewise then, this should have jwks.json. And then from there, we should be returning an array with the public key. And let me see. I think key pairs is the right tool to use for this job. Oh, and these need to be async if I'm going to use them this way. Let me just Google this real quick. Key pairs. Oh, there it is. Because this will output a standards compliant public key. Parse or generate, let's see. Public export. Oh, that's to go to PEM. I guess it already is in the right format, more or less. Let's see. KID, kid, thumbprint. Default header is. Yeah, I think just the key pair. So I think we just put here key.public. I think that'll do well enough. All right, async, return. Why isn't it like this? Key is not defined, right. But we have private key, parse, key pair, yeah, key pair.public. That should be it. Let's check and see real quick. We can go here to localhost / oh, I'm not using that anywhere yet. So let's do this. Where do I want to handle that? Yeah, well, the thing is, I kind of like mounting the session middleware at root and then just documenting what it uses. This is kind of a catch-22, because then internally to itself, it can reference the right URLs without having to have that passed in. There's probably a way to find out what the mount point of an Express app is. So if I'm an Express app and I'm passed in with use, and say I'm passed in with use/API/auth, there's probably a way to get that that's what the mount point was. I just don't know off the top of my head what that is. If anybody else knows, go ahead and leave a comment. I'll check that out. Okay, so was this it? Did we just call it OIDC? No, it's called OIDC config. I don't like that name, but I don't know what else to call it. I just need something. So now if I go to well-known jwks.json, why not? Is the server running? Server's running. Let me put slash in front of there. I think that might be my mistake. Oh, there we go. Cool. And I'd kind of like to prettify that, but whatever. Does this have the key ID in it? Key ID, yes it does. And it has use, yeah. So this right here is a proper jwks.json. So if we want to, we don't have to pass the key in everywhere we use the middleware. We can just let it reference the issuer. Where this doesn't work is if you have multiple services running on the same host, because then there's no way to identify which host is the one that has the key. Or I guess there is, because you would just point it. You know, if you see anything looking for well-known jwks.json, you just have that go to the server that's handling the keys. Yeah, I guess that works. Maybe I'll just go with that route for this. So in that case, nothing else actually needs the private key. It's actually okay to just have this generate a private key, or just the auth service has the private key and the other services don't need the private key because they can just get the public key to verify. So yeah, let's go with that for a bit. Okay, now we've kind of turned this into a quasi sort of middleware. I'm going to document this because OpenID configuration. Is it configuration? I've already forgotten what it is. OpenID configuration. All right. So that's what this one's for. And that's what this one's for. So session, refresh, exchange. Okay. And the next thing we need is for the API, we will want to have our, basically our verify. Or what should we call this? Require user. And so that will be, I'm just kind of building this out as we go a little bit. By the way, I like to put the actual extension of the file name or the directory, so like that or like this. I feel like that's a lot cleaner. Not very many people do that, but it's more explicit. This is exactly where it is. I don't have to guess. Also, I've seen cases where there's both a folder and a file by the same name, like middleware, and then it gets kind of confusing. Okay. So that's our require user middleware. And that doesn't really need anything, does it? Let me go back into our middleware here. Here's what it needs. We need to tell the difference between when we require a user and when a user is optional. So there are some things that are probably public in your API, and if there is no user, it's okay. And there's other bits where no user, no bueno. So what we probably want here, let me go back to that again. We don't necessarily need to pass in the key because it can go and fetch the key. We definitely need to pass in the issuer. Well, we could technically get the issuer from rec.headers.host parsed as a host name. Well, or no, just parsed as a host with the port. But if and only if we know that there isn't any, I forget what the name of it is. It's a certain type of spoofing with TLS, which modern web servers like Caddy protect against, but some old web servers and proxies don't capture. I forget the name of it, but it's when in the TLS you connect with a TLS certificate and say the name is example.com, but then for the host in the HTTP header you put whatever.net. And then you can do some tricksy things if you're able to do that. So it's best to specify the issuer, and then we can specify whether we want this to be strict or not. So let's go back to where we're going to use this middleware. And let's say the key is null. Wait, is it an object? I think it's an object. So let's say strict is false. Well, let's say it's true. Kind of like to be more specific what part of the API. Let's just say strict is false. And issuer is HTTPS localhost. No, HTTP localhost. And then we need process.env.port. Again, I'm sneaking in global variables. I don't like doing this, but I'm just kind of figuring it out, playing around. I'll make it better later. I didn't like that. Okay. What if I do this? I wonder if it'll like this. Nope. Okay. Now let's put something that's actually useful in the API. So let's say as part of the API, let's just put an inspect endpoint. Oh, and also, I think another thing we ought to do here is set rec.user to rec.jws.claims. So this will be rec res next. And we'll call next, and we'll say if rec.jws, then we'll set the user to be the claims. So claims is going to be stuff like subject, that's sub. It's going to be all the little properties that are part of the token, except for the header values that define how to validate the token. So let's say we want to do that. And we want to inspect expect. So let's just say we hand back rec.user, which is not something we really want to do. But I'm going to go with it. Let's put this under debug, and let's put this under development. That'll make me feel better. There we go. I feel better about that. Okay. So now we also need something to emulate our database. Let me just make a quick users file. Users.json. And really we want the ability to get users by two things. One is their email address, but another would be their actual ID. So I'm going to say that this goes to ABC123 and that ABC123 goes to some real user details. You'll see what I'm going to do here in a second, but I'll say if it's a string, then it's an alias. And this is what I'll do. Okay, we'll have a user map. All right, what is this subset? Oh, because I was going to do JSON. That's why it's upset. That's okay. We're not going to do JSON anymore. We're going to do, well, we will. We will. We'll do it as JSON, sure. I don't know if map's the right name for this, but it's the name I'm going to give it right now. There we go. Cool. So we can look up a user by its email address or maybe by its Google ID. Let's call this G-, and then we'll call this U-. There we go. So that'll be its Google ID, that'll be its user ID. And then with the users, we need some information. So I think we've got first name. It's one of the things. Last name. We're going to put in accounts. And let's put in here what their role is with the account. So maybe accounts should look like this. No, let's do it like this way. And I'm just going to call this give some generic names here. Let's see. Well, maybe I just want to map this to exactly. Yeah, this is gonna have to work. So I'll have roles, and we'll say this person is an admin and a user for the Marco account, and they are a user for the Polo account. What did I do wrong? Okay, thank you. Clean that all up. Okay, and then let's give an account that's the default account. So let's give each account a priority. So we'll say this one has the priority of 100, and this one has the priority of 500. Now, should it be the account that is closest to 0 is the default? I think that's how it ought to be. I think that's what I'm going to go with. Okay, yeah, I think I can make this work for what I need to work for. So like I said, I've got one use case where it's heavy on sub-accounts, and I got another use case where it's heavy on roles. So I'm going to mix these two together, and I think I'll be able to prototype out both types of access. So that's my users. So let me go into my session middleware. What I need really is, we're going to call this db.js. And we're going to let the database is equal to users.json for right now. We'll replace this with the real database code later, but I just need something to model out what my users are going to look like. Okay. So let's say I've got a get by email function, or let's say I've just got a get function. I think this is more similar to what I actually have. And then the get function is going to take a query, and then we'll say if query.email, then, and let's make this async, then we're going to return db data.map query.email. Well, let's say this. Well, no. So basically, this is going to give me my user ID, my real user ID, my truest sense of user ID. And one of the reasons we want to have a user ID that's not the email address is because in their Google account, they can change their email address. So, for example, at one company, I had the email address was techadmin, but then I also had my AJ O'Neill address. And so at one point, when I got my own Gmail account and the Google Workspace account, my email address was basically, it was just changed, and then the tech admin became an alias. And so we want to allow for that case where the user's email address may actually change. So let's see, if not ID, should we just return null? We don't return an error. We say, okay, you query for something, but if you don't get it, no error. You just get null. I think I actually kind of prefer throwing an error to getting nothing. Now that I think about it, because then I only have to have, because you have to have an error handler anyway for some random thing might go wrong with the database. So might as well put the both together. Anyway, I'm just going to leave this here like that for now. Or null. There we go. So that's how we're going to get a user. Now, is there anything we should do about the way that we format the user? Because essentially what I want to do is kind of imagine that this represents what the claims are going to be. So I guess for here, what I should put is I should put the true user ID as the subject claim. And then here are the account IDs. We'll just call this ID rather than name. Same difference. So I'm going to have some accounts. I'm going to have some roles on those accounts. Okay, so what I do want to do is flatten this out a little bit. So I want to be able to have an account ID on here as well. That's what I want to be able to do. So I'm going to say, let's user equal this thing. If not user, return null. This would actually be internal error, because there shouldn't be possible to have this and not have that. So let's instead throw. That shouldn't be possible to have that error. So I'm just going to throw that there. We could call this DB error. But sometimes I like to prefix these with sanity because they're errors that should never be able to happen. Whatever. So we've got that. We're going to throw an error if we don't have the user. And then if we do have the user, we want to figure out which account to get from the user. So if we have a query dot, let's say account ID, then we want to find the user account by that ID. And to make things simple for the purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to back out of here and reference these as such. Okay, so rather than an array, I'm going to have a map, and that's just because it's going to make this logic easier for me. Okay. So in reality, this would be a join between an accounts table and a user table, but I just want something quick to mock this out to test it more thoroughly. Okay. User accounts account. So let's say if not account, then I think it would be fair to throw an error here. Let's say unauthorized. Go. That would be fair. Throw this down. Okay. So what do I need next? Is otherwise, let's say account equals, I want to do user.accounts. We'll do, let's see, object.keys. Or I guess we could do object.values. .sort. And I always forget which way sort is. This is one of those things I really need to put in a cheat sheet for myself. So we're going to have account A and account B, and we're going to return A.priority minus B.priority. And what does that mean? It's -1. I think we want to do the opposite. So I think that's what we'll set as the default count. And then if we have an account, then our user roles are account.roles. That's what I'm going to set this up as. think that's fair. But I need to double check on that sort real quick. I guess I can just run this code. But anyway, so what this is saying is which of these two is the lesser. And I think what our target is A. So what we're saying is A less than B or greater than B. Should A sort closer to 0 or should A sort closer to infinity? So if A dot priority is 100 and B dot priority is 500, then 500 minus 100 is 400, which means that A should sort closer to infinity. So I think this is wrong, but let's just go ahead and ad hoc this real quick. But this is something, I'm going to make a blog article for this right now because I always forget which is ascending and descending. And I cannot tell you how many times I've done this little test here. So let's take some numbers in random order. And then do sort A and B, and then return B minus A. So that gives us bigger, it comes first. If we do A minus B, that gives us smaller comes first. Okay. And I'm gonna open up a gist for now, and I'll go back and do this later. Maybe I'll even stream that. Of course, it'll probably be quicker to just do that little ditty than it is to go look up. I wonder, how could I remember this? Because I forget this every time. I guess it's just numerical order. I don't know. Okay, so now I've got my user. If it's got roles for its account. And I wouldn't actually attach roles at the top there normally, but in this case I did. In this whole thing, this is all indented when it doesn't need to be. That was stupid. Okay, and then else if query.id, then similar. I suppose we should call this PPID. That would be an appropriate name for it. So if we don't, all right, so I guess maybe we need to do this. Let's do switch on query. No, this doesn't work. Just if not query.email or query.ppid or query.id, throw new error. Must query by account alias. There we go. Good. PPID is pseudonymous personal identifier. So basically the Google ID you get back is scoped to the application that you are. So if I look at my Google ID under the application that we've created here versus you create an application and we look at my Google ID, we're going to get different Google IDs. So it's a pairwise pseudonymous identifier. That's what it stands for. Okay, so we don't have any of those. Well, I guess maybe I should just put this down here. I don't like big long itself if else blocks, but actually in this case it's appropriate. So I think that's the clearest, cleanest way to write it. Okay, so what is it upset at me about? That's good. This is good. This is good. That's good. Why are you complaining? Stop complaining. I expected token on line 54. No. Oh, yeah. Because I denested that big if block. That makes perfect sense. Okay, so I'm going to get a user. And now the user has roles, so this is good. So I want to check to see if we can get, I guess, yeah, we can, we'll set up some things to check the permissions and roles. And actually, I've got a buddy who created a library that I think I can use here. Is that authorization? This is very, very simple. It's only a couple lines long, but it makes perfect sense. So you can say these roles are allowed to do these things, and these roles are allowed to do these things, and you can scope it to your middleware. So it's kind of nifty. So let me bring this around here in just a second. So essentially, all this user stuff is what I'm going to put as claims in the token for now. Technically, any token that has roles on it should not be an ID token. It should be an access token. An ID should only be authentication. It should not be authorization. Access token should provide authorization. We're going to blur the lines probably a little bit here. Probably should have copied the whole line rather than half of it. But whatever. npm install save. There we go. All right, so I've got my authorization middleware. I'm going to use it on, let's create some bogus resources here. Oh, so I did that require user. And then what was it? This was supposed to be the inspect or something, I think. Oh no, that was just doing its thing. Here we go. These are the inspect endpoints. So I'm just going to call this dummy. I'm going to say you can post to API dummy. And let's say that the authorization for this is, oh, let's see, do I need to use it like that? So I can use it at the top level, or I can just use it like this. That's cool. Yeah. Oh, and so I wanted to show you the code for this. So the code for this is 3 lines long. Okay, a little longer than that. Not much longer than that. What? Low dash. We're going to have a talk. I want to include that 15 bajillion megabytes. Actually, it's not that big. But I don't like things like Lodash because they're very kitchen sinky. I just need 2 or 3 lines of code. I don't need 600 dependency chains of array utilities that depend on each other to do a simple task like check to see if something includes something else. Is it even being used? Oh, it is for intersection. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, that's essentially just a couple lines of code. But we'll go with this for now. So let's see. We want to say that in order to create this, you need an admin role. In order to get this, we'll just create some dummy data here. So let dummies equal this. If you want to create it, you need to be an admin. If you want to get, you can be a user or an admin. And that makes sense. So if I want to create a dummy, then I do dummies. Say I'll create an ID, map.random. This is another one of those things where I should just have something ready at hand. We're in Node, right? So we can do crypto random bytes. Let's say the number of bytes we want is 16, and we want toString, and then we want that hex. That'll work. So let's say whatever rec.body is, that's going to be the dummy. Plus the ID. And then we're going to return success is true, ID is ID. I don't know what it's complaining about. Oh, missing comma. Got it. I'm there. I'm there. Now what did I do? I didn't require crypto. Ah. All right, what syntax error do I have now? Line 69. So something's not right here. Probably the same thing. Yep, also missing comma. And I think this code checks to make sure that there is a user. Yeah, okay, cool. It does. Sweet. So yeah, so this will work really well. So here we'll return. Gotta be careful on this one. Yeah, this, I think it makes more sense just to do this the old-fashioned way. Okay, we got rec.params.id. res.json. Dummy, and then if not, what do we do then? Actually, I prefer to do something like this. Success is false. Code not found. Message invalid ID. All right, so I'm just creating a resource where we can test out the authorization pattern. So we can do a post and we can do a get. And that's good enough for now. And let's say that an admin can also list all dummies. Whatever these dummies are, because I didn't specify any sort of validation. Unterminated constant string. Oh, there we go. Got that one. Okay, so we're just going to say an admin can list all of them. And so we would do dummy IDs is objects dot keys of dummies. And then there will be dummy IDs, so there's no possibility for there to be an error here. There we go. Looking decent. All right, so now we've got a place that we can test our users. We put in some middleware that's going to make sure that we have a user. I don't know if require user is the right thing, but let's call this parse JWT. I don't know if that's even verify JWT. I think that's good. Let's not call it require, because it's not really requiring a user. It just verifies the JWT. Okay. So now I think I'm at a point where I can take a token that I've gotten and I can send it back. Let's see here. So in my test, there's a my token dealio. And the token will actually work even if I've logged out, by the way. So even down here at the end, I can still use my token. So let me do that. So I'm going to be logging in with Google. So I want to verify that my pattern is working, so I should be able to list dummies. Let me go about this. And I don't expect that I'm going to get anything back at this point. But I should be able to list dummies as an admin logging in with Google, because I think I made myself an admin without specifying an account. Oh, I didn't actually connect where it gets the user info yet. Duh. I did all the scaffolding for it, but I didn't actually connect it. So let's see. This is going to be API dummy. We're just going to do a get. And this is going to need an authorization. Actually, I want to do use token just for the inspect as well. We'll do that in a little bit. So I think I called it debug. Was it debug inspect and then debug dummy? Let me double check on what those names were. Let me go back. You know, I keep on forgetting. I have Nerd Tree. I can just switch this way. It is slightly faster. There's debug inspect. There's dummy. Whoops, excuse me. And then the file that I was just in then was the test. Let's go down to the test, to the test, to the test, to the test, test. And we don't want to use the Google test token. We want to use the my access token that I got sometime before, right? Yeah, the previous access token should work just fine. Oh, and we are up on time. I want to go at this for another 15 minutes before I take a break, but I do need to take a break. But I want to get to the point where I've got the user objects tied in together. So I've got some mock users, they've got roles. I want to actually use them. I want to test that get the full flow working, and then from there We'll see. And I really should transition this to JavaScript by now. I just don't know of any, I mean, to be honest, I don't know of any JavaScript frameworks I really like for this kind of thing. All right, so we should see a list of dummies. It should be an empty list. Well, we're not going to see it. We should be able to inspect the token. I'm going to be interested to see what happens here. Okay, use token inspect. Interesting. So the inspect endpoint did not pan out the way that we had hoped. Return rec.user, and I know why. Because we don't have a guarantee that there's a user. So we need to do res.json here. And of course we could return this instead, but for the sake of being a little bit more like normal express, that hasn't been all niceified. Okay, good. I wanted that user to be null if it doesn't exist. Okay, cool. So user is null, list dummies is unauthorized. Good. And I think in that particular case, we'd want it to fail. And now I need to go into lib session, and this is where the dragons are, because we don't actually want this to know anything about how our users are structured or what we're doing with them. We really just want it to be able to focus on its own concerns. And I don't know if that's really possible in terms of, this is the kind of thing, I don't know if you can make it generic enough. But we'll see. We'll see what we can do here. So where are the really dumb things? Here we go. Get user by email. Get user by password. Get user. So let's say instead of getting user by email, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this whole thing all the way down to the bottom. We're going to have this return the app. We're going to have the module.exports be, okay, module.exports equals function, and then this is going to have some options to it. And one of those options is going to have to be the getUser function. So we can define what this should look like. Okay, get user by email. So I guess there should be a get user and a login user maybe. Or just get user. So this should be trusted. This is a trusted middleware. So it should be able to say, I'm going to give you some information and you give me back a user with the information I give you. So we should be able to say get user and then give it credentials and say rec.body. So say it's up to you to interpret these credentials, but these are the credentials. I like that. And then here we can say, here's an email address. Give me a user by that email address. And then maybe we can say verified by who. This is verified by rec.user. jws.issuer. Okay, I think that's fair. Yeah, because this is already verified, so I think that's fair. So what other get user thing do we have? Get user claims. So really this is just get user. So I'm saying I verified an ID token. Because what am I doing up here? Get user, grant token, and cookie. Get user claims. And is that the only thing I'm using the user for in here? I think it is. Yeah. And is that the same thing here? Yeah. Okay. Then I think what I can do instead is say grant token on claims. I can move this out. All right, this is the good part. So if you're just now watching in, this is the part to start watching on. This is what now the muse is striking here in the 11th hour. So I'm going to move the claims from the grant token. I'm going to move it from grant token and cookie. Where else do I need to move it from? Get user claims. Get user claims. We're just going to get rid of this. All right, we're going to get rid of verify ID token. So this needs to be basically get user by token, verify ID token. So we don't need to return user stuff here. We just need to return JWS stuff here. So this really should just return the JWS, the JavaScript web signature. So verify ID token, sure, that makes sense. Verify ID token, yeah. And so then we should say JWS and get user, and what are we getting the user by? We're getting the user by JWS, which is going to have the issuer, and this verify ID token. Okay, we definitely should include the issuer in here as part of what that's doing. Let me move this into our little bit here, because we should definitely be providing the issuer. Yeah. Okay, now where the key pair is coming from, does it really need to know? Maybe, maybe not. But yeah, let's say that it's going to pass in the key pair. That's fair. And if not key pair, then we make one. All right, this is starting to look good. So this is the internal validation that it's going to do. This is good. This is good. If not key pair to do, I guess it should just generate one. Okay, cool. So really this get user should be get public claims. That's what it should be. So let me rename this one more time. So we don't need to get user by email. We don't need to get user by password. I mean, we do need these things, but they need to go elsewhere. So let me close out of this file. Actually, let me open back up. I need to get in the habit of using NerdTree. Okay, I'm just going to dump these anywhere in here. I'm just going to dump them up at the top for now so that I retain them. I'm going to comment them out because they're not actually useful yet. All right, and then let's go back to what were we looking at? Yeah, and let's close NerdTree. How do I close you? Oh, that's how I close you. Of course. Oh, my buddy Ryan will be so proud when he learns that I'm using NerdTree. I'll have to let him see me use it someday. Well, now that I've got a nice install for it, you know, it's webinstall.dev/vim-essentials and then vim-nerdtree. Now that I got a good installer for it and it just like the config just happens, because I use a lot of different systems, and that's why sometimes I don't get into all the nitty-gritty of the configuration. I like to learn the defaults really well, is because I use a lot of different, I log into a lot of different systems and I like stuff to just work wherever I'm logged in. But now that I've got Webby, I can log in anywhere and then boom, lickety split, I've got my config with reasonable defaults for a variety of things. Anyway, I was babbling and I lost my train of thought here. So verify session, that is legit generic the way that it needs to be. All of that looks good. And the key fetch, we're not doing. Does this function need to be async? No, it doesn't. I'm going to remove the asynchrony of that function as to not confuse myself. All right, grant tokens and cookies, grant token. So all of this is looking really good. And I probably need to do something to define, I think on the user object that I get back, there should be some claims and there should be, well, I guess the claims, yeah, the claims would include issuer and expires. So I should just check to see if those are already set on the claims. And if it's set on the claims, then use it there. And claims, again, it's kind of, there's so many of these things that just have weird names and they don't have a good, there's not a good way to describe them otherwise, but claims just means, what are you claiming about the user? Like we could claim that the user's name is Joe, and who signs off on that claim? It's whoever the issuer of the token is. So if the token has a claim that says first name Joe, you can, I don't recommend putting much data in the token, but there are, sometimes it makes sense to put a little bit of data in an ID token and a little bit of data in a access token, like first name and or nickname or username or whatever could go in the ID token. That makes sense. It's a small amount of data. Just don't bloat it up. An access token, put roles, sure. Okay, so I've got the verify ID token. What did I break? I broke the get user stuff, all of it. So that's what I was looking through here for. And I broke all the claim stuff. Get user. And really, this is claims. So that's what I need to update in all these places. Claims, claims, claims. Well, that simplified that. Okay. I'm going to give myself a max of another 20 minutes. I really do need to take a break, but I'm on a roll. I'm getting close. Things are pretty clear. I'm hitting my stride. I don't want to stop now. All right, get user claims. So let's see, do we have any user equals in here still? Okay, verify session. What is this doing? Verify session. So I guess with verify session, what I should be giving back is the parse token. So let me see if keyFetch has a jwt.decode. I think it does. It'd be stupid if it didn't. I mean, it wouldn't be super stupid. Okay, keyFetch, JWT, decode. Got it. Yeah. It is precisely what it seems that it ought to be. So I need to return keyFetch.jwt.decode, and it would be an unusual internal server error for a signed ID token to not have useful, or to not be parsable. Because if we have a signed cookie, we know that we created the cookie, so the cookie is safe to use. And if there is an ID token, then there's no possible way. This is one of those sanity things. I don't want to bother catching that error because I don't think it's worth it. All right, verify session. How many places is that used? Just one? Okay. So again, JWS, claims, let claims equals get user JWS. All right, cool. With that, I think that we've gotten rid of all of the code that was, how to say, proprietary to a particular style of user usage. So this can now, we can just rename this to helper functions because it's none of this any longer is, now all of it's fairly generic. There are a couple of things we still want to do, go back and find a way to parse out of here. But this is a really good start. Really, really, really good start. Okay. So, where do we go from here? First of all, we do need not necessarily the key pair, but the key. I think I just want to keep that here for now because I don't have an epiphany right now of how to deal with that. But I am going to go back up here to, where was it? Session. Right, so now we do need to pass in some options. And the most important option is, what is get user? And I think we should define that up at the top. But we've got a good start to it already. And let's see. what other options do we need to pass into this thing? And I need to document this. I'll have to update the documentation in the next session. Module.export. So we needed a key pair, an issuer, and a get user. I'm not going to worry about the key pair. Okay, I'm not quite in the habit of using nerd tree yet. Really, it only saves a couple of keystrokes, but it does save a couple of keystrokes. So it's not bad. Okay, I don't need to be here. I need to be in app.js. And let's set the issuer needs to be http://localhost plus process.env.port. And then how do we define get user? Do we have the DB yet? No. Let's do let DB equals require. And here is our dummy database. And we'll have our async function get user. And then we'll have different things. We could have an email or a JWS, or I forgot what the other thing was. Let me go take a look at that. This is one of those things must be documented well. Credentials. Email. Issuer, JWS. Credentials. Got it. Okay, so here we are. So I don't need that one. Returns claims that should go into token. So I'm already going to label this as a misnomer, but that's okay. All right, so db.get email or JWS. Let's do this. JWS and JWS.sub or, and we know that the JWS that's coming from this is already validated either by Google or by us. All right. And this also is good because so every time we refresh the token, we are going to hit the database when we reset the token or the cookie, which means we're going to get the most up-to-date information about the user. So if the user has some new permission model or something, the front end should update the user's token if the user gets a new role. There's got to be some rules or something for that. Okay, and then credentials. As far as credentials go, let's just put a to-do. Because that should be we hash a password or something. Now there is going to need to be, here's one thing with the 2FA. I guess the 2FA logic, we could store it in either place. We should start here and then maybe move it back to the other place. But if we get some information about this user, about how their 2FA is configured, their multi-factor authentication or two-factor authentication, if they sign in, say, with credentials, and their credential sign is successful, or say that they've got multi-factor and they've signed in with Google, but they also need to sign in with LinkedIn as well, or something like that. We need to have a way to return an error during the credentialing process that basically says, hey, error, additional authentication required, and then give back the details of what that additional authentication is. So I think I'll put in here to do MFA, and then we will add MFA via Twilio and Mailgun at some point. But I think the Twilio one I'll do soon because it's cool. And by cool I mean functionally useful, because if you hear me chat at all about coolness, you know how much I hate it when things are cool. But Twilio is useful. That's what I mean by cool in this case. Okay, unexpected token. What did I do wrong? Missing semicolon, sure, whatever. That's it? What about that token error? 34. What's on line 34? Oh no. Okay. I get by password. Yeah, so let's just go ahead and comment this out again. That'll still be there for the future. All right, we're going to await this. I'm going to let user equal. And then maybe this is where I'll do. So let's say roles is user dot. No, that's good enough. What I don't want to include is I don't want to include all the users' accounts. So maybe I do want to include first name, I think is what I had it as. And maybe I do want to include roles. Definitely want to include roles. But what else have we got for the user that we put in here? Oh, let's go to the data. Users.json. Okay. So there's a sub. We absolutely need that. There's an accounts. There might be an account ID. Let's say that there is an account ID. Let me go back here. Nope, that was not. Was this the right one? No, this is not the right one. This is session. I want to be an app. All right, we definitely need subject. And we probably need issuer. Although that should default. I'm going to go fix that real quick. So let's go in here. So where are we doing this stuff with the claims? Grant token. All right, this is what I'm going to do. We're going to call this one, no, that's going to be the normal one. We're going to have a function that is underscore get user. We could call it get user helper. I often call helpers underscore get user or underscore whatever. Or sometimes I do call them whatever helper. But we're going to have this, and it's going to return what, there we go, async get user ops await. Whoops. So we'll do let claims equals await. We're going to return claims. But if false is not equal to claims.issuer, then we're going to say that claims.issuer is the issuer that we were given previously. There we go. If not claims.issuer and false is not claims.issuer, then we'll use the default issuer. That makes sense. I feel good about that. And the issuer, again, is how we know the token that we have, because you can verify a token, and if you are verifying it with your own public key, then you know that's your token, but issuer can tell you where to go get the public key. Let me see. I'm just checking some messages here, make sure it's not something I need to respond to post haste. And it looks like no. All right, so this is good. I like it. Now let's get back over to app. All right, so sub We're going to get user.sub. And we don't need to worry about issuer, because issuer will be filled out by default. Although we could. Nothing wrong with doing it here. And then let's see. I actually wanted to make sure that we get an account ID on here too. So let's open up our database.js. And if account, then I also want to do user.accountID equals account.id. Let's put that in there. Solid. Okay, now let's go back to app.js. And so now I'm also getting account ID. This is good. Yeah, totally makes sense that this is what we want to give back. We're not doing the password thing yet. All right, and I need to put I don't know where I need to put this. I'm just going to throw this up here for now. I don't know if that's really the right place to do it or not, but that's what we're going to do. How many other places am I using port? Yeah. C. And that actually, verify JWT. I'm going to put a to-do here as well. To-do should be set by parent middleware. Or maybe not. Let's see, where else are we doing this? Okay, good. That looks correct now. I think we're ready to test this. I think I've got a full unit of work done. I think it might work. Well, first let's check to see that we haven't broken anything. I'm going to go ahead and add all of this stuff just so it's staged, so that if I do something wonky from this point, I've got something I can go back to. So I just did git add on everything, which normally I don't do that. I don't ever do git add everything. I like to add things specifically and make a good commit message about what I'm adding because I'm pedantic that way. Now, let's go ahead and run our little tests again. Oh, code doesn't even run. What do we got? Router.use requires middleware function 65. Okay, let's take a look at app.js line 65. OIDC config. So OIDC config is not correct for some reason. Let's go take a peek at that. That was under lib and middleware. No, it's under lib and session. OIDC config is a router. So this is an app. And it comes out of this export bit. Ah, I know why. I know why. Okay. So if we go back to the app, the session middleware is being invoked here. So what we need to do is move that invocation up here, which is a little bit awkward. Could probably find some better names for this stuff later on. I might peek around at what some of the other auth libraries are calling things. Okay, come on, 5 more minutes. Okay, did that solve the problem? Yes, now it's listening again. Now it's happy. All right. So let's go ahead and run our tests and fail. db.get is not a function. What do you mean db.get is not a function? db.get is too a function. You know it's not a function? Yo mama. There we go. No. Cannot read property email of undefined. db.js 8.3. Okay. Query.email. Ah, yes. Yes, okay. Huh. It almost feels like what I should be doing here. Oh, and that was wrong. Good to catch that now. It almost feels like what I should be doing here for the sake of stupidity. Well, no, because I need to know if that thing exists so I can get back a proper error. Is this what I want? Whoa, what am I doing? How do I do that? Oh no. I did something I didn't intend to do. Oh, I see. It's okay now. I didn't save it, and so it was still open there. All right, where's my db.get right here? So what I mean to say is email is email, or PPID is this. Well, really, I don't even know. That's, well, maybe I shouldn't distinguish between those. So the true ID would be the ID that our app has for the user, which that should also be pairwise to be for completeness. But it's the ID that we are generating, whereas what I'm calling PPID would be, for example, the ID that Google is generating. And when I do an account creation, which I haven't really handled that here, but this should insert by, we should create our own ID that's scoped to our own application because we should have our own access tokens. That's another thing I got to do with this is I actually also have to have the permanent access token scheme, meaning like API keys. That's got to go into this eventually too. But that might be more next weekish. We'll see. No, I should be able to get some of that done. We'll see. We'll see. Anyway, I'm just gonna say to do PPID versus ID versus sub. All right. But anyway, now I've got an appropriate query that has a couple of different options. Oh no, why are you still upset? Must query by account alias. Okay, well, did I not just db.get? Whoops, nope. What's wrong here? What did I do wrong? Do I need to console.log? Email. Oh, I think where it's failing, before I was just allowing anything. Okay, so I will need to go ahead and handle this credentials case. Let me go ahead and wrap this with my development thing. There we go. So if we're in development mode, Well, I guess what we could have here is what his credential is going to be. We're going to have user. So let's say ID is credentials and credentials dot user. Let's say that we're doing that play here. So if credentials, let's say if this is not development, we're going to throw an error. Credentials are not implemented yet. We're not actually going to do any password checking. Yeah, that seems right. So I'm not actually going to implement the password checking yet. But what I am going to do is update our test file so that where it is posting to session, which should be one of the very first ones, we can have user and just set that to my email address as the dummy user. Oh, whoops, it already was done. Okay, cool. So now let's run the tests again. All right, looking a lot better. Expecting new access token. Oh, we're just going to go on forever. My tumbly is getting rumbly. Okay, if I get to the point where I'm not actually thinking straight, I'll stop. But I'm still thinking straight. I'm just feeling a little bit of hunger. All right, must query by account alias. Okay, so something isn't right there. Let's look at app.js 21 first, and then let's look at session 200. So app.js 21 is probably not going to give us much information. Yeah, it's not. What it is telling us is that wherever it's being called, which is session on line 200. Let's go to session. Where was session? Lib. Session. Let's go to line 200. All right. Verify session is probably not returning what we expect. That is JWS. Let's go back to app here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to console.log JWS and see what we get. All right, I should open up a third terminal for running the tests. What do we get? Okay, JWS is here. .claims. Duh, I always forget that. Always, every time, in the face. Okay, duh, JWS.claims. Let me grep through my code here real quick. See if I've got any other places. Yeah, there's one right there. So what I need to do is invert the search for wherever it's not claims, and then take a look at it. And then do the search again so I get my coloring back. So right there, boom, both of those are wrong. That one's correct. All right. Lib session rec.jws.email. And what is this from? And let's double check on that way that the Google token looks again. So I can close out key fetch and close out authorization. I'm going to leave that open because I'm going to make a blog article. I can get rid of that. Although technically, I'm going to put this in my bash cheat sheet. I need this is what I need. I need to have a JavaScript cheat sheet, and I need to have a Bash cheat sheet. I've got a Go cheat sheet of sorts. But just like these little things. So I'm just going to put that in there as a note to myself to create that blog article. Okay, don't need to have key pairs open anymore. I don't think I need to have this thing open anymore, the IAM stuff. I don't need to have that open anymore. Well, kind of, sort of. All right, so we're back here at email is included and email is verified. Okay, cool. Oh, and I don't need to have this open anymore. Let's get rid of that. Boom. Okay, so yes, rec.jws.claims.email. Boom, done. Cool. What the heck just... Okay, it's just the formatter because the line got longer. Got it. I was like, undo, redo. What changed? Okay, doing pretty good. Expecting new access token. So we're getting along here. Cannot read property sub of null. All right, getting closer. So app.js32, which is probably not going to give us any information. Just user.sub. Oh, so if not user, we need to do something about that case. And I guess we're just going to throw an error. Throw new error. To do not found. Let's see what that looks like. Expecting new access token. Cannot read properly replace of undefined. Okay. Oh, unhandled promise rejections. That's not good. Okay, gosh. So that error that I just threw was not properly handled. So get user. I guess what we need to do is go back to lib session, get user claims. Okay. And we need to await. That's what's going on here. That needed to have an await. Indeedy. I don't, that might have been the one that was failing. Let's just run the tests again in case that was it. No. All right, I'm going to reset that and then rerun this again so I'm just looking at the most recent errors. Okay, to do not found. Excellent. That's acceptable. But the question is, why was it not found? Because verify session should have returned a decoded token, right? Let's just look at this, console.log, JWS. And that JWS should have claims on it. Should be all hunky-dory. Does it have an ID? That might be the problem we're facing. Let me just go check that real quick. Does our get user have an ID? Yeah. Well, no, that's not it. But our get user shouldn't have an ID. It should have a subject. So I would lay the blame here. Get user. What is it looking for? Claims. Nope, it's not here. User.sub. For some reason I was thinking that I'm looking for ID somewhere. I think it was in the db.get. Let me close this one over here. And db.get sub claims.sub. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's all good. All right, I'm going to run the tests again to see what I'm missing out on here. So do we have claims? Yes. Do we have sub? Yes. Interesting. I think I found a source of the problem. I seem to remember. Let me go into db.js here and do the get. So if we have query ID, then we don't need to look in the map because we don't need to map an ID to itself. So let me go back into the user's database and show what I'm talking about here. So I've got this map to say, if it's an email address, it's actually this user ID. And if it's a Google ID, it's actually this user ID, and so on and so forth. So we could have a mapping of saying, if you give me this thing, treat this thing as an alias, and go look up the user by their real ID. Now, granted, I'm not quite doing this right. Or am I? Because Google is looking it up by... Google should be giving the PPID in addition to these other things. So let me go back here, look at the article. That's the subject, is the PPID from Google. Okay, so let's go back. We're going to go into this library here. I'm going to go into where it's giving back the email. Okay, email verified. Yep, we're looking at this. Okay. So email issuer, this is verified with Google. Yeah. We should also give back the subject here, or let's call it the PPID. Both of those things should come back. This is subject, right? Okay, and then here's where we need to change that other code. So let's go back over to the database lookup over here. And what we need to do is actually say, if there's an email, try to find it by an email. If we do not have an ID there, then if there's a PPID, something like this. So if that didn't get us the ID, but we have a PPID, then find that way. And really what it should be, oops, let me save so everything gets formatted correctly. Okay, that's not right. Okay, so I do want some element. Okay, I think that's fair. Whoops, what did I do? I messed up something here. Like this? Oh, what did I do? Sorry, I'm fixing stuff without explaining what I'm doing. I made a syntax error somewhere. This should have ended the other if there. So if we have an ID that's assumed to be our internal ID, we should go straight for that. If we don't have that, we should check email. If the email doesn't find it, we should check the PPID. And if the PPID doesn't find it, then maybe that goes there. Yeah, I think that goes there. I don't really like nesting like this, but I feel like that's appropriate for what I'm trying to accomplish for this test case. Okay. I think I can test this now. Oh, even worse. Even worse. What did I do wronger? User by ID. Such and such vanished. All right, let's check on that. So, ABC123. So I definitely have got something wrong in whatever my changes were. All right, so I guess I could say user not found by, and I could just put this in here. Well, at this point, I don't know what it was. Okay, let's just log out what the ID is. I don't like the way I made that logic. It was wrong. It was wrong, and I admit that it was wrong, but I don't know what to do better at the moment. Because what I really want to check is, okay, this is what I need to do. So to do, check that at least one valid query exists. Note, it's perfectly valid to have both email and PPID. All right, so that's really what I want. Is let's say if I don't have query, I'm just going to write it out. If not query.id or query.email or query.ppid, then I'm going to throw this whole problem. I just copy that, paste it here. If there's a query ID, then we should assume that the ID is law. Come on, another 10 minutes. If not, we should try the email, then try the PPID. But if after all of this, we don't get an ID, invalid account alias. And then here we can put in query.email or query.ppid, and we need to put those in parens so that the string concatenation works as expected. Okay, we should get the ID here, and what I'm suspecting that I'm going to find, I'm just going to go check in app.js right now to head this off, is that credential.user. Right. So that would be a no. But this could be either one, right? So this could be aha. There's where I went wrong. Okay. So what I had there was this JWS is going to be our own JWS that we created. It's not going to be Google's. If we're using Google's, we're going to strip out the email issuer and PPID from it and use that. If we're using credentials, that's credentials, so on and so forth. Okay, I think we're going to get there now. Oh, further along, but still no. Okay, the ID is correct. Cannot read property replace of undefined. And this sucks because it's not giving us a stack trace that comes up to where we can get it. However, there's a limited number of places where we're using key fetch. So hopefully we can find it. But why did the stack trace get swallowed? Maybe, I don't know. But we do have this bit where it says unexpected error, so maybe that's where it's happening. So let me look for unexpected error. And there's only one place where you have an unexpected error. And you know what we need to do? On these unexpected errors, we need to set path is equal to rec.path. That needs to be a thing. Okay, now let's see. Good. Exchange. So now we know where it happened. That was a key moment. Okay, let's do an instant replay on that. So I went in my error handler and I said, you know what the error should show? It should show the path. It also should show the method. And then when it logs it out, it gives me a little bit of extra information that helps me track down where it came from. Okay, so I'm going to run that again just to see it's posting to the exchange. So I'm going to go to lib session. I'm going to go to exchange. And where is key pairs? No, that's key pairs. Where's key fetch? Okay. Verify ID token. Verify ID token. Verify. What I want to see here is let's have it decode the token, and let's console.log that. Because what I'm thinking is that issuer here might be empty in a bad way. So let's decode what the token says. And let's try again. So save that. And then, syntax error. There we go. Save that. And run again. All right. Cannot read property, replace undefined. Decode, protected, payload. Type claims. Okay, no issuer. But we're providing an issuer, right? I mean, it should have an issuer. Why doesn't it have an issuer? This seems like that would be a weird thing to do, but let's go ahead and delete that cookie jar. Okay, how is it generating a token that's missing issuer? Let's check and see if issuer is being passed in the way that we think that it is. So console.log issuer. And maybe we'll find that all is not as it appears. So where is issuer? Ah, got it. Okay. Missing the semicolon, or I mean the full colon. That. All right, I'm going to clear this out. And we're still getting something, but we're a little bit further along. So issuer is coming through, but it's not making it into... Why is it not making it into the claims in the first place? So let me look at lib session. Where is it doing a sign JWT? Issuer is false. Okay, that's why. That to do is to done. Like what I did there? That to do is to done. As is that one. Okay, so this helper function needs to move inside where it has access to the issuer that's being set. And this one will need to move inside as well because it needs access to that, which means this one will probably need to be moved in as well, or maybe not. All right, I'm going to move these helper functions in here where they have access to the issuer that's being set. And then where was that JWT? JWT.verify. It's verifying, it's going to verify that the issuer is who the issuer should be, and it can't do that. So that's a bug. And key fetch. I'm just going to file a bug on this real quick. Where's the repo? Is it this one? Oh, bother. I don't know why it's showing up in Spanish. Or Portuguese, excuse me. I'm just going to sign in real quick and enter in my two-factor code here. So I can just open up an issue on that. Okay. Yes, we need to open up, and this is the, I think this is the canonical for it. It's been a while since I worked on this. Okay, barfs when exist in verified token. When the decoded token JWS doesn't have an SS, it should return a verification error, not this. And let me copy over the error message that we're getting here. Okay. Good. Now I've logged that away, because that could have been solved simpler if the error message were better. All right, what did we get wrong this time? Cannot read property private of undefined. Did I run it too fast? Nope. All right, let's run this one more time. Cannot read property private of undefined. Session 152, 184. Let's look for it. 152 is here. All right. 184 is there. So I get that. Key pair dot private. But key pair should have been created right here. So I don't get why that would be a problem. It wasn't a problem a second ago. Well, that seems really odd. Okay, what the heck just happened between now and then? Did I move something? In a place? Let's get rid of all the white space changes here. Okay, so I must have moved something very simple into a weird place, because obviously, well, I shouldn't say obviously. Let me go back. That was the wrong file. In the session file here, key pair, let key pair equals key pair. Oh, here we go. This, I know why this is. All right, let's do a let underscore key pair here. And then this is a double underscore key pair. Okay. Obviously this is not a right way to code, but we're going to go with it for now. Okay, no, we're not. We're not going to do that. Okay, we're going to get rid of that one. And then I guess everything else is going to come in here pretty soon. Might as well. So does that have anything that needs the key pair? No, that does not need the key pair. Slowly, all of the helper functions are moving down into the module, which is fine. It's where most of them probably ultimately belong, because there's going to be options that get set and such and such. Okay, what we're going to do then is this. All right, so let's make sure this is covered in to do, because that's so not right. All right, here we go. It's going to work this time. Everything's going to be daisies. Oh, see, look, just like I told you, except for this unauthorized bit. And this this user is null bit. However, I'm thinking it's about time for me to take a break. Okay, we're so close though. We're so close. We're so close. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and stage my changes again. I'm just going to stage everything because we're at a very nearly working state, and the tests at least pass, even though some things they're not passing the way they should pass. Okay, let's look for claims here. Do I want to have that? Grant token. Let's just look at grant token for a second. Or maybe, can we look at this? Claims. Where are my roles? I don't have any roles. Why don't I have any roles? Let me look here. Roles. So user.roles. So let's do console.log user. Console.log user. And by the way, it's very hot in here because I haven't had my AC on, and it slowly gets hotter and hotter. I turn on the AC before I record, so that's starting to become obnoxious as well. But I'm at the finish line here. Okay, user, sub, first name, accounts, roles. Roles are undefined, but roles are right there, and we have priority, and I don't have an account ID. This does not make sense to me. Okay, well, now we're getting really, really, really close. So if account.roles, object.values equals sort. Ah, okay. Need to limit it to the very first one. All right. Moment of truth. No. Oh, good. Good. Now we've got roles and account ID. This is excellent. So we're just missing a teeny weensy little something or other here. All right, so that's going through, which means that it should be in the token. It's in the token. So there's just something wrong with maybe the authorization process. Okay, am I an admin? Let me make sure my user is actually an admin. Should be, yeah, I'm an admin and a user. And I've got that right there, admin and a user. So why do I not see... Let's just go through this one more time. Let me look at the test. Use token inspect. Okay, use token inspect. And I'm assuming that I have a token at this point. So let me go check out my debug inspect endpoint. And that rec.user should be there, right? Because API, rec.jws, okay, console.log, rec.jws. So this should run right before the API inspect debug runs. Okay, so it's undefined. All right. Why is it undefined? So it's coming after verify JWT, which is the middleware mabob. Okay, so let's go there, lib, middleware, and original rec.jws. Oh, wait, if not JWT and not strict. Okay, so orig JWT. Just look for this real quick. We're at the finish line. Okay, I'm actually going to clear out both of these screens so that as I look at the output, which now there's a lot more output, orig JWT, nada. All right, so what does that tell us? It tells us my access token. Where did I get that last? Expecting to exchange Google token. Do I see that here? My access token. Where's the next one? Expecting new access token. Okay, let me run this again. And I should see expecting new access token. And by George, there's a new access token. And it's got this stuff in it. All right, so let's just do another sanity check here. Authorization. Looks right. My token. Okay, what was this token before? My token versus my access token. Okay, because we're going to do the exchange there. Got it. I need to set that up. So my access token. Expecting new access token. Okay, cool. So then when I'm using the access token here, I should see something. Okay, token's there. So why would the token be rec.headers.authorization? But of course. But of course. There we go. All right, we're getting a lot closer. Let's clean up some of this debug garbage real quick. Oh gosh, it's harder to tell in Bash because I don't distinguish between the things as I should. Sometimes. Okay, I got rid of some of that. I think I'm good there. And dinner time's coming. So I need to wrap this up. Okay, let me get rid of some of this console.log nonsense. All right. What was this? I don't know. I should probably keep that in there for now. That looked like that was supposed to be there. All right, let's get rid of this stuff. I might have to just add it right back, but I just don't like having tons and tons of logs. They get in the way of being able to understand things when they're not actually useful. Okay, do we have an issuer here? We do. And do we still have that /.well-known open ID configuration? And, oh, undefined JWK's URI. Let's go ahead and fix that. That could be part of the problem. Oh, I put in app URL as a standalone, but let's say, I think I can put an issuer here, right? All right. So fix the typo there, and then still getting internal server error. Oh yeah. Cool. That makes perfect sense. All right, cool beans. So in my .env, I need to go up and set key fetch allow and secure HTTP. Still internal server error. What's going on? Key fetch allow and secure HTTP equals true. I did allow that. Key fetch allow and secure HTTP equals true. That's in my .env. Oh, maybe changing my env doesn't cause the server to restart. There we go. But still didn't do it. Protocol null. Huh. Key fetch. Middleware JS 12. Okay, that's where we're at. Lib middleware JS line 12. All right, let's console.log the issue again. And if it is being passed the key, which it isn't right now, but it should be. Oh, I can also get it to be past the key. But let me dig into this first. I'll look into that later. Okay, that looks right. I don't know why the protocol would be null. But I suppose we could just go put a console.log into key fetch at line 65 and see what we see. URL issuer. I'm guessing that that must be null. JWK URL. JWK URL. See if we get anything else here. I think something just is missing. It's not reading. Maybe the JWK's URI is wrong or something like that. Let's try one more time. Let's see what we get here. Undefined, undefined. Okay, that makes sense. The question is, why is it undefined? Let's go to lib middleware. Do we have issuer here? Or orig ish. Okay, that one's defined just fine. So it must be the one that's in here is somewhere undefined. Oh, huh, how'd that get back there? Well, we killed that. All right, that was probably it. Oh. Let me see about this one then. That looks like that could be a typo that exists in the code. Just a minute. Okay, where'd this come from? 67? Set number? Oh, that's not 67 at all. Object.keys is probably what this was supposed to be. So that... I'm just gonna just see if that fixes it. But I'm gonna open up another bug. Key fetch. Okay. All right, but I'm going to sidestep this issue for a moment. Because I can. So in, let's see, where should it be? Key. Auth middleware. So the key pair is here. How can I get that back? I guess the way I get it back is to pass this in instead. And I'm going to have to await it. So let me go back to app.js. And I'm going to have to wrap this whole thing in a main function. So I'm just going to do that. Which I think it's a good idea to do anyway. So let's call this async main. Ooh. We don't need that, thank goodness. Okay, async function main. And then we've got our key. No, we don't have that here. All right, so we need to add let key pairs equals require key pairs. And let's call main down here at the bottom. And then let's await let key pair equal. And then Oh, let's go back to here and grab that private key. All right. So to do, I don't want that to have to be part of the boilerplate for every instance of this. Although it makes a lot of sense the way that it is. And then, where's the middleware at? Middleware, verify JWT. So for right now, to do this should not be necessary. Oh, whoops, what are we up to now? Okay, what is going on? Cannot access key pair before initialization. Key pair. What? Cannot access key pair for initialization. Oh. The temporal dead zone. I've heard about that. No! No, stop with the internal errors. What am I doing wrong here? I'm probably using the middleware wrong. Let me go check. Keyfetch.jwt.verify. All right, verify options. JWK. Yeah. That's what this needs to be. That makes a lot more sense. A lot more sense. Okay, so what did I just do? I'm running now. Yeah, I updated this according to the documentation. The parameter is not called key, it is called JWT. And I put that here as keypair.public, but it should be JWT. No, JWK, sorry, JWK. Let me make sure I had that right in the other place. JWK, pub. Well, I guess, it's fair to just call it JWK the whole way through. But it is the public key, not the private key. So I think I prefer to call it pub for right now. I can go back and change it later if I want to. Come on. Yes! Okay, whip commit time. I get all the sweat off my back. All right. So we've got users, auth, the users, roles, accounts, middleware. We've got it all. All right, I'm going to go ahead and push that up. And even in my whip commits, I don't ever put keys or secrets or anything like that. FYI. And I should put in my example.env. I should put up here for development only. There we go. right. And then I just commit these as fix up so I know to remove them later, to squash them out, because they're related to whatever the previous thing was. Okay. I'm sweating. I'm sweating from all that code. Oh, I'm pumped. It finally works anyway. Okay, well, it's time for me to go fill my belly and, I don't know, go for a walk or something. It's been a long time just sitting here coding. So I got to get out. If you like this, go ahead and give it a like. If you got any feedback for me, leave it in the comments below. If you got any questions or things that you'd like to see me live code or explain or any of that, down in the comments. And I will catch you later. Yeah, just check out the doobly-doo because there's links to things and stuff. And live code channel, beyond code channel, other stuff. Oh, I'm only half purple now. I lost one of my colors. Huh.